Tuesday night, and we are closing in on the start of the season. So another episode of Go Horns and Fight Songs, and I was just doing a little quick math. I think it's just over 2.5 weeks or so from the start of the season.
It is definitely quickly approaching. We've got two more teams to discuss, and then we'll get to the season prediction stuff, and the season will be here that weekend.
Yeah, it's fun. It's exciting, and I'm kind of ready for it, especially after how this fall has gone for my sports teams.
A little bit aggressive this week. Not what we were hoping for, but it's all right. I'm geared up for hockey season anyway, so.
Yeah, I think once the fall kind of starts to hit, that's where we all are at. Fall means the start of hockey is right around the corner, and actually, I think the Wild have their first preseason game on Sunday. So not that it matters, but hockey's here.
It is. I mean, the pros have already had their, um, was it like rookie camp or rookie tournament? A couple Western guys made their presence known there. None probably more than Jason Poland. If you follow, what is that podcast? Paul Bissonnette, that Spit and Chicklets.
Oh, spit and chicklets.
Yeah, they had a little clip of Poland laying the shoulder on some guys in his appearance with Colorado.
Yeah, the I know we're college hockey, but the Wild had a little bit of a tournament with Chicago and in the Blues, and as much as I don't want Chicago to have another stud player, their rookie tournament, Connor Bedard, some of the shots that he pulled off in some games were ungodly, and yeah, that's not good. That's not good for us Central fans.
I mean, I haven't paid any attention. Don't really know who he is. I know he was projected to be a stud. We'll see if that really pans out or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was against just rookies and guys that probably are not going to make the team and either be in the ECHL or the AHL. But um, regardless, some of the shots they were pretty ridiculous. But I liked his attitude where I, he's had some attitude issues from what I've seen before, but this one was I'm still a rookie. I'm still going to participate. I'm a rookie. I got to pay my dues. So um, we'll see how that goes for them. But yeah, having those camps, it means that we pretty much arrived. And with that, we're like Wes said, we're down to our last two teams, and this week is St. Cloud State.
The defending Frozen Faceoff champions. They've come in fourth the last two seasons, taking on your UMD Bulldogs in the first round of the playoffs the last 2 years. Unsuccessful the first year, won last year. Went to overtime with North Dakota in the semifinals and beat a surprise Colorado College team in the finals. Limited success, I think, in the NCAA tournament. They may have won their first round matchup. I don't remember if they made it to the regional finals or not.
Not.
I think they did.
I don't remember. I know a couple years ago they made the Frozen Four because there were 3 out of the 4 teams were Minnesota teams.
Look this up every freaking episode because never freaking remember. I'm pretty sure they did. They made it to the regional finals because they lost to Minnesota 4-1. They beat Minnesota State, which is, an interesting team in and of itself. The whole CCHA is interesting if you've been following college hockey news as of late. that's not what we talk about. So we're just gonna breeze right on over that. They have their own problems to
Hmm.
deal with, and we'll maintain where we are. So yeah, I mean, a moderately successful season, I guess. A little bit disappointing that they only finished fourth in the regular season. I think they were ranked pretty high most of the season last year, and it's surprising that they kind of finished fourth in the conference when they were ranked nationally. I think near the top, if not within the top three, quite a bit of the season last year.
Yeah, and I think that that happened the last couple of years. Um, Last year and the year prior, they were always ranked right around the top five, even though in conference standings they might not have been as high. I think just the schedule that they play non-conference that helped them quite a bit, especially because they played Minnesota a lot that and split with them the last couple of years and had very entertaining games. I think that helped propel them to having a pretty high national ranking for most of the year.
Yeah, and I mean they've got a pretty good non-conference schedule again this year, which we'll get to a little bit later. But I they do tend to schedule a pretty even non-conference schedule, and it really does prepare them for conference play, and they usually do pretty well within the conference. So it's not surprising to see them up there year after year, and I really don't see this year being much different. They are once again the whole entire conference seems to be really heavy on the underclassmen this year. Nine total freshmen, including one red shirt. Uh, Seven total sophomores, including one red shirt. Five juniors, two transferred in, two seniors, and three fifth year slash grad students. So, their top 3 years combined are right about with what their sophomore class is. So, definitely still heavy on the younger side, but I don't count that out against them just because of what they have coming back. And they have some pretty great players coming back. Dominic Bassi, who transferred in from Colorado College before last season, he played 19 games, had an 11-5-2 record with 3 shutouts. He split time with Castor last year, and I mean that was a great performance by both of those goaltenders. Really, one of the only successful splits I think we saw throughout most of last season, as far as what they were able to do with either goaltender in net. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so they have him coming back. I expect him to get the majority of the starts this year, just because their other two goaltenders are going to be a little bit less experienced. So it should be his show for sure. And if he showed anything, he's definitely in a much better spot than he was when he was at Colorado College, and his performance has proved that.
Yeah, I think that's I I think for him coming in, at least having that split, he'll be able to take on the bigger workload. But then now the guys that are back, they have trust in him because St. Cloud could have gone either way with Castor or Bassi, and they were like, okay, well, we have him, perfect, we're fine. Um, there are a couple other names that stood out to me. Well, one that I'm interested in. Complete side note: there are a couple freshmen. Um, One is Barrett Hall, and he went to Gentry Academy, which I haven't seen anyone that has gone to Gentry Academy in any of our roster spots yet. But they are a school that was started here in Minnesota specifically for hockey, um, mostly by like I don't know, maybe a couple parents or just one set of parents because they didn't like how the coaching and their kids were being treated at whatever school they were at. So they're like, well, we're going to make our own hockey school. They're pretty much a Shattuck, but they're allowed to play in the high school league. So Barrett Hall, I'm kind of interested to see how that transfers into the college game. Like, is Gentry really what they say they are versus you're just another private school. Um, and then the other one, I think he might be the brother. It's Werner Miettinen. And I think he might be the brother of Vetti Miettinen because on his bio it doesn't have anything, but they're both from Espoo, Finland. think they might be siblings, so that I think that'll help him in getting acquainted. And uh, the older Miettinen, he's been a big part of their team for. He's a senior this year. He's been a big part of the team for uh, since he's been there.
Yeah, I mean, he showed up. He played some big minutes last year too, and he definitely could be on that list of guys that are key returners. The other one I have as a key returner is Zach Okabe, who played all 41 games last year, second in points behind Cronulla. He had 5 power play goals, 5 game-winning goals, including the goal in overtime that sent the Huskies to the championship game to take on Colorado College. So Okabe is one of those guys who scored big goals in big moments. I think he had a pretty big goal against UMD as well. I think last year he had a pretty big goal too. Like he just shows up at the right times and scores opportune goals, and is one of those guys that you kind of lose track of, but then you hear his name a ton throughout the game. So guy to keep a watch on there. Some and then like as you were mentioning, the freshmen coming in are going to have to play a key role, or at least play some kind of role, just because there's going to be so many of them and there's a lot of spots to fill across
And
the board.
there are a lot of spots to fill, but it, compared to a lot of the other teams that we've talked about, you look through even just their sophomore class. Um, I want to say it's a Sean, but it doesn't look right to me. But Grant, Ashawn, um, Ethan O'Coin, Adam Ingram, all those guys as sophomores, they produced as freshmen, and so they're going to have to step up even more. And they were names that you hear all the time in every single game for them. So I think that will help the freshmen be like, "Hey guys, we were able to do this last year. This is what we did to make our names known. Here's how you do it." And I think the freshmen will be able to follow them. Um, yeah, looking through their roster, I mean, there are so many names that you just hear throughout the games that it's like, man, you guys are still returning them.
Yeah, I mean they will be without some key guys. I think one of the biggest names on that list might be Micah Miller. Uh, Kind of underperformed in his last season. Really, I mean he had lower numbers. He only had 5 goals, 12 assists, 17 points, which was kind of shocking when I was looking through it. Just because he scores big goals. I mean, I think last year the year before last season he led the conference in shorthanded goals. He's a great defensive forward, a solid PK guy. He knows when to jump in plays and take some chances. He signed with the Tucson Roadrunners of the AHL. Um, Grant Cruikshank, who only played 1 season with St. Cloud State after 3 with Colorado College and 1 with Minnesota. He had a big impact in his single season with the Huskies, actually tying Zach Okabe in points last year. But he had 23 goals, 15 assists, um, contributed 8 power play goals and 2 shorthanded goals. So, I mean, he made a huge impact, and I think he has the ability to do that with the Toronto Marlies of the AHL as well. So, I mean, those are 2 guys who were very impactful last year that are going to be hard to replace. But I think guys like you were mentioning, Sean Ingram, can step into some of those roles and take some of that pressure off of guys and fill in those spots.
Yeah, I think their biggest loss is, even though, like you said, he seemed to have a down year last year. The biggest loss is Micah Miller, as far as
Overall,
skaters go.
overall skill, a leadership guy. Uh,
Hmm.
a guy that, like, no matter what he was doing on the ice, you paid attention to him and your eyes gravitated to him. So yeah, I think that might be one of the bigger losses. And then they do lose uh, goaltender Jackson Castor, who played 4 years at St. Cloud, had a career high 23 games, a 14-8-1 record. Um, Actually had shutouts in his last 2 games with the Huskies, aside from the loss there to Minnesota, but shut out the 2 previous games, the Colorado College game and the Minnesota State games. ended up signing with the Florida Everblades at the end of last year, and I think I just saw that he signed with somebody else for this season, or like a tryout or something. Let me double check it.
Well, and while you're looking for that, good for him. Um, I don't know why I can't remember his uh, name right now, but before last year, the main goalie for St. Cloud, he went down 2 years ago. He had some injuries, and Castor had to come in and play during the playoff matchup against UMD. And the fans were kind of down on him. I watched him play. The first game, UMD kind of blew him out, but it wasn't his fault. And then he played like a stud in the overtime game where we moved on to St. Paul. I was like, this kid's pretty good. Like it wasn't his fault in the first game. Like he's a pretty good goalie. Sure enough, last year comes in, he splits time with Dominic Bassi, and he proved that. He proved what I saw, and so even though he's a Husky, I really do hope that he can, latch on to somebody and get a shot because he will. I think he'll just improve.
Oh yeah, he signed a PTO contract with Seattle Kraken earlier this week. So good luck to him there. Not a bad spot to potentially be. Former UND coach leading that squad. So, or at least the
Yeah,
the, par- the parent team there anyway.
yeah. Other
Um,
than that, Jack Peart, Josh Ludke, names that you'll know, um, and then
I think Peart was
Tyler
named to
Kupka.
the preseason all conference team or some shenanigans.
Yeah, he's a very very good defenseman for them. And then the one that I feel bad saying this because it's not quite right, but every time I hear Anhorn's name, I think of Ace Ventura, and Einhorn is Finkel, Finkel is Einhorn. It's close enough. Don't hate me.
I mean, we were talking about it before the show, but I think St. Cloud State's got a real good opportunity to be one of those top teams in the conference, and if not the country. Uh, their coach Larson does an extremely good job. Their entire coaching staff does a great job. I mean, they're one of those teams that doesn't necessarily rebuild; they reload. And while they don't have necessarily a lot of turnover this year, um, that sophomore class being as big as it is does have experience in that freshman class is going to get a chance to learn from some really good players and compete in an extremely tough conference. So be interesting to see
Yeah,
who shakes out where as far as players and playing time and things of that nature.
absolutely. Now, as we were talking a little earlier about their schedule, I think we should dive into that one. And as per what now seems tradition, they start off with St. Thomas of the CCHA.
Yeah, and a little bit of an interesting start to the season. Some early game times. They'll play Saturday, Sunday, October 7th and 8th. It's a home and home. The first game at St. Cloud at the Herbs Brooks National Hockey Center. Game 2 Sunday at St. Thomas. Uh, I mean, St. Cloud's gotten the better of this the last few years. I do think St. Thomas is coming around a little bit, which I think happens as guys get experience and they play more games together as a team, and you get used to some of the opponents you're playing. So I expect it to be a little bit closer than maybe it has been in the past. I don't think we're going to see the 11-1 blowout like we did, I think, the first year these two teams met.
Yeah, they it's nice that St. Thomas. Oh, is it actually yet? St. Thomas. I know they played at the X before, but yeah, the first year St. Thomas, it was kind of their welcome to Division 1 hockey game. The first game blown out. Second game, St. Cloud. I think they were just working on some things. They were like, okay, we know we're gonna win. We're just gonna work on things, and I think that ended up about 3-1. somewhere in there 3-2. It was closer than the night before, but I do think that it's going to be closer. Last year was closer. I think it's going to be more of a hard fought series this year, and it's only an hour drive between, maybe hour and a half from St. Paul, so not a big deal for the teams, and kind of a good start to the year for both of them.
St. Cloud then goes on the road to Minnesota State for back-to-back games, October 13th and 14th. We kind of start getting into the regular flow of the season with the 13th, the Friday, Saturday games. Uh, as we've mentioned with every team that's played Minnesota State or that will play Minnesota State this season, it's going to be a new look team. Most of the players and the coaching staff have gone on to Wisconsin. So it'll be interesting to see if we get a similar Minnesota State to what we've seen in the past, or if it'll be a little less competitive than I think we're used to seeing the series being. But I mean, you got to take every game seriously. So hopefully, St. Cloud doesn't sleep on this, expecting it to be a little bit more of a softer game than they might have been expecting.
And I do think I have been to only one game in Mankato, but um, it does seem like a pretty tough place to play. Uh, Actually, more so than St. Cloud, in my opinion. Uh, there's just something about it. It's a cool barn. So we'll see. We'll just know a little bit more about Mankato once we actually see the team play, because I think they probably have a series earlier. I'm not sure. This might be the first series that they play against an NCHC team. So it'll be it'll be interesting. I still think it's going to be competitive. We just know nothing about Mankato. And then they come back home the following week with Alaska Fairbanks. And this one, we've talked about Fairbanks in the past, and it's going to be more competitive than they would have been 4 or 5 years ago. They're a different team, and they were a very good team last year.
Yeah, I know Alaska's been on the rise since coming back. Nearly snuck into the NCAA tournament last year. The only thing that really hurt them is the fact that they don't have a conference to help um, keep them in the national talks, or even give them an opportunity at an automatic bid. Um, but they did almost sneak in. They just didn't get the help they needed from other teams. So I expect both of these games to be pretty competitive. Honestly, I kind of wish that they were at Alaska just to give the St. Cloud guys an opportunity for a little more team building. I mean, it is a tough trip up there, but I think that those trips are the trips that really bring teams together and help them build on something. Um, and I think it would have been a little bit more difficult of a schedule and really prepare them for what they're going to play in the NCHC to have a little bit more adversity early in the season than to get some of these more distant teams at home.
I agree with that because I mean, yeah, it's a long trip, but then you give the guys time to hang out. You can plan something. Um, I know you don't want them missing too many classes, but at the same time, they're kind of there for hockey. Um, you could go a couple days early, plan a fishing trip, plan something, give them some sort of team building activity because you need that time to get up there. And really, the throughout most of the start of their season, the longest trip that they're going to make is to Kalamazoo, which isn't that far of a trip. Because
Mm,
after Alaska, they start conference play with Miami at home, and then they have Western and UMD at Western, and then back at home against UMD. So there's not really that time for them to do anything because they're mostly staying in state,
Yeah, I mean for the early part
other
of
than
the
going to
season.
Kalamazoo.
Yeah, 'cause I mean I think the farthest they'll travel during the season is either Colorado or Denver if they go out there.
Uh, yeah,
But yeah, they jump right into NCHC play pretty early, November 3rd and 4th, taking on Miami. Back to back NCHC games, and then against Western here in Kalamazoo, the Minnesota Duluth. And they sneak in a non conference weekend over the Thanksgiving break, taking on Michigan. Omaha, I believe they wrap up their non conference schedule over the holidays with a split schedule. Once again, it's a home and away game or home and home series with Bemidji State. They'll be at Bemidji December 29th, home against Bemidji December 31st. And then they have Denver at Denver to start the new year, North Dakota, Omaha, Colorado, at Colorado. So yeah, they make the trip twice to Colorado, going to Denver and then Colorado Springs.
they probably will no because they have Omaha.
Omaha and North Dakota.
Yeah,
North Dakota at home and Omaha at home. So two home and then back out on the road. Uh, Another series with Miami, who's actually kind of been a thorn in the side of St. Cloud here recently, potentially more so St. Cloud than they have been the Western, even though Western is their rival team. Another series against Western, this time at home. Denver again at home this time, and they wrap up the season once again as usual with Minnesota Duluth. And that last series against Minnesota Duluth to end the year, the last few years has been an extremely important series. I think 2 years might have been the most important of recent memory, just because the teams had to fight for home ice in the playoffs, which ended up going to St. Cloud, not really benefiting them too much as Minnesota Duluth was able to win that series. And then last year, once again, those two teams were really building up for a playoff series that was going to take place the next weekend. Um,
I, I think the last 2 years, us and St. Cloud have played the most because we played 12 times in, well, actually, more, I think.
well, you
No, it
had
would have been 12 times within the last 2 years.
you had the 4 games. No,
Yep.
the 4 games in the regular season of 2021-22.
Yep.
Uh, I think you guys swept that playoff series, so that'd be 6 games.
Yeah. That would be six.
And then last
Four
year,
game, 4 games last
4 games
year.
last year, and then two
Two.
more in the playoffs. So yeah, 12,
Mhm.
12 games in the last 2 years between the two teams. The winner of that playoff series going on to take home the Frozen Faceoff title. So once again, a very important series throughout the season. A lot of implications going into the playoffs. It would be interesting to see if you guys run it back one more time and play each other in the first round again. Whether you're that 4 or 5 matchup again, or it shakes out somewhere different.
I
And
mean,
then
at this point, why not?
yeah, I mean
Why not?
the last year of 8 teams in the NCHC, so let's run it back one more time, right?
It and it's a lot of fun. And going up there 2 years ago, up to St. Cloud, it's so much fun. Even being a visiting fan, you can cheer for your team. You're going to get some ribbing, but at the end of the day, everybody's so nice in St. Cloud, where it's like, yeah, you can talk, talk your shit back and forth, but whatever team wins, it's like, hey, good luck in St. Paul. Let's go out and have a beer or something like that. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun atmosphere there. Um, I don't necessarily know what it would be like in Duluth. I know how I would act just because I've been the other side. But it's a great place to go watch playoff hockey, especially with the teams having so much on the line these last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, like they've been entertaining games. I've watched quite a bit of the series after I get home from Western games since it's in that central time zone. It's perfect. I get home and you guys are not just starting, but probably in the like second period or so.
Yeah, like halfway through the game.
Yeah, if that. I mean, it literally might be just the start of the second period. So I get to see quite a bit of those games, or I'll go back and watch the first period later. But definitely entertaining contests every time. Um, both teams get up for that a little bit more than I think they do the average game, and it's worth the watch if you're not a fan of either team. It's worth a watch no matter what. So we don't have as many side topics to talk about with this team just because it's a lot more stable. Of I think we know what we're gonna get with it. They don't have a lot of question marks. They don't have the drama of the head coach that we've had with a couple teams previously. They haven't made a big jump in the standings recently. We can do predict the first, what we think their schedule or their record's going to be like after the first 10.
Yeah, we got to do that. We've done it with every other team.
I have them well into
So
the positive. I think they're going to continue their success against St. Thomas and sweep that series. I think Minnesota shocks them and gets Minnesota State gets a little bit of a shock there, and it's 3-1 after the Minnesota State. I think they split with Alaska Fairbanks, so they're 4-2. I think they sweep Miami, and I think they split with Western Michigan to be at 7-3 after the first 10.
I have them at 7-3. Sweeping St. Thomas, splitting with Mankato, sweeping Alaska. I did it in my head just now. Now I can't think of it. So 2-0, 3-1, 5-1, 7-1 with Miami, and then I think maybe who did I have them split with? This is why we're so good at this because I already forgot what I had. I had them at 7-3.
You
I
need
think
you need to write things down a little more often, my friend.
I know. I think I had them splitting with Western
Yeah, I don't.
because I do think this roster with the experience that they have, even though it's on the road in a very tough, very very tough environment at Lawson, I do think they will split and can get one because they do have that experience still.
I would very much like to see Western, sweep that, and they end up being 6-4 in the first 10. But realistically, I think 7-3 sounds right. I don't see Miami having the surprise success that they've had in the past. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they had Ludwig in net, and he's going to be playing for North Dakota this year. I Miami just doesn't have a lot that excites me about them this year, and I think they're going to kind of be the the team that everybody picks on this year. So unfortunately for them, I think that's the case. I believe strongly that Western's going to have another great year under head coach Pat Ferschweiler. I really like what they did in the transfer portal. We'll talk about them a lot next episode. But I think that'll be a tough matchup, and it might be one that we see these two teams competing for 1 and 2 in the conference for quite a bit of the season. Um, so it'd be
Yeah, and
interesting.
I do think just looking at St. Cloud, they only play Colorado College once and North Dakota once, so they only have to face Ludwig once, or well, I mean technically twice, but one
Yeah,
series. So that'll be kind of nice for them.
yeah. I mean, he has given that Miami or that St. Cloud roster uh, some trouble there.
Not as much as ours, but still some of them some pretty good trouble.
Yeah. I guess if we want to cover just a couple other things, since we're only about 40 minutes in, it appears not sure that this is 100% true, but it appears like Colorado College is going back to the tiger crested jerseys. Um,
Ooh,
Potentially. I know they've been using the tiger crested jerseys on most of their social media. So hopefully they're making that change back to those white jerseys instead of what they've been wearing. Um,
I really like their tiger crested jerseys.
yeah, the weird font ones were not great.
No, no, but just getting that tiger crest with the black and the gold, it just looks.
So I don't know. Again, I mean that would be hopeful in that because they do look a lot better. Again, I know they're using them for most of their social media postings. At least I believe that's the case. Um,
I mean, as long as they don't do something like put. Now I know they wouldn't do it for them, but put a giant W
hey,
at center ice.
hey, hey! The giant W was never the issue. Let's just be clear. When the Bronco head was in front of the W, it was never an issue having a W. The issue was they got rid of the Bronco completely. They put the W in a stupid circle off to one side, and they put that terrible font at center ice. That was the issue, okay? At least that was my issue. Other people had other issues. I didn't like the fact that there were words at center ice that were not around the face-off circle. That was
Uh,
stupid and ugly and terrible. Don't do it again. This year,
oh,
the center ice logos the 50th anniversary of Western hockey, so it's actually pretty dope.
okay, that would actually that would make sense.
So, but yeah, no, that was thank God that it only lasted one season because it was awful.
Yeah, it was not good.
And I think last year, no, last year we had the Bronco, no W, just the Bronco. That
Yeah,
everybody was
what's
annoyed that
behind you there?
faced the right, yeah. Except it was flipped and had the newer colors, which I really like the old colors, but they brought back. They got rid of the Vegas gold for University gold. So, and brown. Which not opposed to the new or the revamped color scheme. Literally, my entire problem was just the font and the fact that they had the circle W to the off centered, and that was stupid. Don't do stupid things, all right? You don't fuck with tradition, and they fucked with all of it.
I well, I mean that's what North Dakota fans say.
So, no,
Yeah, luckily,
that's no, that's different.
I know it's different, but luckily we don't have to worry about that at UMD.
Yeah, nope, that's y'all's problem. Um, and our tradition wasn't racist. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I feel like it's going to be a short one just because, like I said, we don't have as many fun things to talk about because St. Cloud State isn't in a terrible position like some other places or have as interesting of topics. They didn't bring in a lot of guys in the transfer portal. I think they only brought in like two total,
Yeah, they brought in two,
and they're
and
both
they only lost two.
yeah.
A lot of their returning guys are solid. They're situated in their goaltending situation with a very good goalie in Bassey. No coaching scandals or anything or hot seat. It's they're kind of in the best way possible. They're a very boring team right now because we, at least from my perspective, I kind of know what I'm going to get from them.
Yeah, I mean no crazy hazing incidents, no coaches being suspended or fired before season starts. Um, no off-season issues with potential funding of jersey designs that may or may not have copyright issues. Um, Team hasn't played bad in the last few years. They're boring for. I mean, lack of a better term, but boring is good sometimes.
Yeah, they're like I said, they're boring in the best way possible. The only place they're not boring is their play on the ice because it's very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, maybe that's not as true this year without that threat of Grant Cruikshank or Micah Miller. But I mean, they've got other
Micah Miller
entertaining.
just Micah Miller just stealing a cross ice pass for his eighth shorthanded goal of the year or what.
Yeah,
I
what,
like
what,
I said earlier though, he's really not back for his 27th year.
but I
I
mean,
mean, he feels like he's been there forever.
Zach Okabe's just as entertaining to watch.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I mean, they're definitely without some big name guys though. I think um, I think Kupka coming back, who played really well last year.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean they do lose some pretty big names. I think they lost Yami Kranola. I believe he went somewhere. Where did he go?
Yeah, Chrono, he did go somewhere. Um,
Do look at us looking things up. Looks like he signed an amateur tryout with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. Don't know if he signed anything post that though, or if it was like an amateur tryout plus the next year type situation.
Brendan Bushy, he's no longer there. Spencer Meyer.
Yes, I mean they're definitely losing some players, but I think they brought in a lot of good ones, and the guys that they have coming back can definitely take on a bigger role in play. Um,
And honestly, looking at their roster from last year, uh, let's see, so Mason Salquist, I think, wow. But a lot of the names that were on there, yeah, they didn't lose as much as it seems.
no, I mean Joe Molinar, he's coming back for a senior season. He was a name that was said quite a bit.
Yep,
Um,
there.
no, I mean they're still going to be a solid team and definitely near the top of the conference, if not the country, for sure. So we'll see how it shakes out. You know, we're getting down here to the nitty gritty. I think we got Western next week. We've got the look into the first week of exhibition and playing games. Um, we'll give our preseason rankings. You know, I think we talked about it last week. The NCHC's media preseason rankings came out, and I disagree with about half of them, if not more, so
Yeah,
more than half. Um, but you know, our votes don't count, so that's maybe we can figure out how to get a vote. You know, if more people watch this or like this or retweet this or make this a little bit more popular and someone from the NCHC season go, oh yeah, these guys talk about us. We should reach out to them and give them a vote. Oh no, I dropped my
yeah,
pen.
they might watch us and be like, "Ooh, these guys have zero idea what they're talking about,"
Could
which
be.
is also,
I mean, probably true.
yeah,
At least for
okay.
one of us. Won't say which one, but
We
it's
all know it's you. We all know it's you.
that guy right over there. My finger keeps disappearing. Look, I'm a magician, and now it's gone. Oh no.
I
So
don't think they give you a vote just because you were entertained by that.
hey, I'm entertained by a lot of stupid stuff. I have a 7-month-old baby. How much stupid crap I have to entertain myself with throughout the day. Actually, very little because she's at daycare through the week. So really, only the weekends I have to worry about entertaining her and myself. So I think that'll wrap it up though. We're at about 50 minutes. give or take the intro and getting stuff together and shenanigans of such. So do the YouTubey things. There's a like button, there's a dislike button, there's a subscribe button. You can hit any one of those. There's a share button if you really feel so inclined to do so. You don't have to. There's some Twitter handles. They're on the screen. Mine's been there the whole episode. Mike's has been there the whole episode. The show's has been scrolling along the bottom of the screen. It's doing so now. There's a Gmail email account that you can hit up if you really feel so inclined to do so and want to ask us questions or hit us up for stuff in between episodes. That's scrolling at the bottom now. It's just goalhornsandfightsongs at gmail.com. Goalhorns and Fight Songs all squished together. No spaces. All 5, 6 of the words, whatever it is, 5 words. Yep, that's there. That's it. That's all I got. I got nothing else for you. Okay, bye.